Have you ever wondered what really separates a good company from a truly great one? I mean, what's the secret sauce? Well, it's not a simple question, but one of the best answers ever comes from this landmark study by Jim Collins called Good to Great. And today, we're going to break down exactly what his team uncovered. So, that was a big question they set out to answer. But here's the thing. The team wasn't interested in just opinions or what some CEO thought. Nope. They wanted cold, hard data. And to get it, they kicked off this absolutely massive 5-year research project. And when I say massive, I mean it. Their starting point was, get this, over 1,400 established companies. They literally dug through decades and decades of financial data, just hunting for a very specific pattern of success. So after sifting through all that data, you know how many companies made the cut? Just 11. That's it. Only 11 companies had actually made that leap from just being good to being truly great. And, this is the key part, sustained it for years, absolutely crushing the stock market average. So, what on earth was their secret? Okay, so the secret sauce is a framework, and it all starts right here, with what Collins calls disciplined people. And this is maybe the biggest takeaway. Greatness doesn't start with a big idea or a brilliant strategy. It starts with who. It's all about getting the right people on board first. And at the very top of every single one of these great companies was a special kind of leader. Collins calls them level 5 leaders. And they are, well, they're a total paradox. They aren't the flashy celebrity CEOs you see on magazine covers. Instead, they have this weird combination of deep personal humility on one hand, and this absolutely ferocious, unstoppable professional will on the other. A perfect example is this guy, Darwin Smith. He was the CEO of Kimberly-Clark, and he made this incredibly gutsy and honestly pretty unglamorous decision to sell off the company's paper mills, their core business, and bet the entire farm on consumer products like Kleenex. By all accounts, he was a quiet, unassuming guy, but he was driven by this iron will to make the company great, not to make himself famous. And this all feeds into the next huge idea. First who, then what? Think about it like getting people on a bus. These level 5 leaders obsessed about getting the right people on the bus, and just as importantly, getting the wrong people off the bus before they even decided where the bus was going. Why? Because they knew that if you have the right team, you can figure out how to get anywhere. All right, so once you've got your bus full of the right people, you can move to the next phase of the framework, disciplined thought. And this is all about facing the cold, hard facts with total clarity. And this is really summed up by a powerful concept called the stocktail paradox. Here's the deal. You have to confront the most brutal facts of your current situation. No sugarcoating, no pretending things are better than they are. You have to say, wow, this is really tough. But, and this is the paradox, at the exact same time, you have to hold on to an unwavering faith that you will prevail in the end. It's that blend of brutal honesty and absolute optimism that sets great companies apart. So all that clear-eyed thinking helps you find what Collins calls your Hedgehog Concept. Now, it sounds a little funny, but it's really about finding this simple, powerful truth at the intersection of just 3 circles. It's not about having a complex strategy, it's about discovering the one single thing your organization can be the absolute best at. It's a fun question to ask yourself, right? What's your hedgehog? Walgreens is a fantastic example of this in action. They figured out their hedgehog was simple. Be the best, most convenient drugstore on the planet. Their key economic metric, profit per customer visit. And once they knew that, they were ruthless. They just stopped doing everything else that didn't fit that model. And, surprise, surprise, they totally dominated the competition. Okay, so let's recap. You got disciplined people. They're engaging in disciplined thought. So what comes next? Well, the natural result and the final part of the whole framework is disciplined action. This is where all that thinking finally turns into real-world results. Now, when we say a culture of discipline, don't think of some rigid bureaucratic nightmare. It's actually the total opposite. It's about having self-disciplined people who don't need to be micromanaged. They get a ton of freedom, but it's freedom inside a very clear framework, that hedgehog concept we just talked about. And you know what that means? It means having a stop-doing list is often way more important than your to-do list. And what about technology? This is a big one. The research was crystal clear on this. Technology, by itself, never ever creates greatness. It's an accelerator. Think of it like a turbocharger. The great companies used tech to speed up the momentum they already had, not as some kind of magic fix for their problems. So you put it all together. You have disciplined people who use disciplined thought, which leads to disciplined action. And you do that consistently over a long, long time. What do you get? You get this amazing, powerful result he calls the flywheel. See, the jump from good to great, it's not some dramatic overnight transformation. It's more like pushing a giant, heavy flywheel. That first push, it's incredibly hard. It barely moves. But you keep pushing, and then another push, and another. And with every single consistent push in the same direction, it starts to build momentum, until eventually it's an unstoppable force. And this is where you see the huge difference. The great companies are patiently building momentum, push by push on their flywheel. Meanwhile, the mediocre companies, they're stuck in what Collins calls the doom loop. You've probably seen this. They're always chasing the latest trend, making some big reactive change, and just bouncing from one new idea to the next with absolutely no consistency. Okay, so you might be thinking, hey, this study came out a while ago. Is it still relevant today? And the answer seems to be a resounding yes. If anything, these principles are more important now than ever before. I mean, just take a look at some of the companies that made the original list. We're talking about companies in retail, in consumer goods. These weren't the sexy tech startups of their day. And that just proves the point. Greatness has nothing to do with what industry you're in. It's all about the principles you follow. But we have to be honest here, there's a big caveat. Some of the companies on that original list, like Circuit City, ended up failing spectacularly. So does that mean the whole study is wrong? Actually, no. Collins would argue it proves his point even more. The framework tells you how to get to great, but staying there, well, that requires you to never stop applying these disciplines day in and day out. And when you boil it all down, this is probably the most powerful message from the entire book. The companies that made the leap weren't just luckier. They weren't in better industries. It turns out greatness is largely a matter of conscious choice. They chose to embrace humility. They chose discipline, and they chose focus. And that's really the big idea for all of us, isn't it? Whether you're running a huge company, leading a small team, or just trying to build a great career for yourself, these ideas are universal. Greatness isn't some lightning strike. It's a choice, and it's built one push at a time. So that leaves us with one final question to think about. What flywheel are you building, and what push are you going to make on it today?